Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Green Jobs, Good Jobs, a podcast by Earth Forward Group. Green Jobs, Good Jobs is a podcast where we talk to industry experts in sustainability, weatherization, energy efficiency, and clean energy. My name is Ruby Ranyoa. I'm a technical writer here with the Earth Forward Group team, and today's very special guest is Shane Bulick, the Director of Programs here at EFG, and also my manager. Shane, I'll let you further introduce yourself and your role here. What do
Awesome.
you not do is maybe a better question.
That's a great approach, Ruby. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I'm the director of programs here at Earth Forward Group. I'm overseeing operations of our programs that are helping with workforce development, specifically in green jobs. We're really trying to work out building a pipeline for weatherization professionals in particular to bring in the next generation of weatherization professionals.
So tell me a little bit about your career path and how you even ended up in weatherization. How did you learn the word weatherization? Because most people don't aim for a career here.
Totally. I will tell you that the honest truth is weatherization found me. And I feel like as you talk to more weatherization professionals, you're gonna hear that theme unveil itself. Weatherization has this way of finding certain people. So for me, my background is, my degree is in physical and environmental geography from Penn State University. It was really focused on ecology and data analytics and GIS. Uh, that led to some really great experiences in academia, but they were very typically short lived. And then I moved into like seasonal jobs where I was working as seasonal park ranger out in Oregon and just really trying to find work that was representative to my degree and to really what I was seeking. But grants end, grants dry up and funding goes away. And so you're left trying to figure out what's the next step. So for me, I moved back to the East Coast from Oregon and started working for my uncle, who owns a small HVAC company. I was a gopher for him. So the industry professionals will get that out there. I went for the tools. I also learned a lot about HVAC and how to really build and design a system and install it from absolutely nothing, both in new construction and pre-existing construction. The sort of the science behind that work really intrigued me. And then through a friend of a friend, I met a person who was looking for an energy auditor, and I accepted the job. And I have never looked back since starting there. So, yeah, it's a long-winded way of telling you how weatherization found me, but ultimately, it just led me to this career that I really didn't know exist prior.
So, what were your biggest challenges that you ran into establishing yourself in this like green jobs weatherization industry?
Yeah, well, I would say the biggest challenge in establishing myself is probably being surrounded by all of these industry experts that have been doing weatherization really since its inception. We've got the original creators of weatherization still in this industry. Now, a lot of them are starting to retire, but ultimately, it's being surrounded by all this greatness and trying to compete with it in a way of like standing on your own was really intimidating. And then on top of that, weatherization is really unique in terms of trades because it's not just one trade. It's not like I'm just an electrician or just an HVAC installer or just a plumber. I literally had to do everything in a house from top to bottom and bottom to top.
Right.
So that can be super overwhelming to somebody that's kind of new getting into the trades outside of HVAC. And it gets to be a little scary, to be totally honest. So I think my approach in trying to figure out how to get projected in my career and how to be established was just taking this sponge approach. It was learning every day, every energy audit that I completed, every time that I get to spend out in the field with my crew, I learned from them and I just never stopped learning. And I'm still doing it today. I learn from industry professionals literally every day.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's such a young industry and we're getting off on that silver tsunami. And I know that's one of our biggest challenges we face in weatherization. What do you think these newcomers, the next generation of weatherization contractors, what do you think their greatest challenges are going to be? Because it's an ever evolving industry. What are you seeing come next?
Yeah, it totally is an ever evolving industry. I have this saying in weatherization that the only consistent thing is challenge and change. It's challenging because of the housing stock, because of the constraints, because of the resource limitations, but it's always changing because we're learning how to do it better. And I think that's really what sets us apart in the construction world is that we're applying science to a home. We're taking an approach that not every builder takes. And we're thinking through the lens of a scientist. So we really want to understand the why and
Hmm.
how we can improve it. Yeah. Anyways, it's a very challenging arena to be in. So the next generation that's coming in, they're facing really the main theme problem that they're facing is how do they get all of the skill sets from the folks that are retiring, that are leaving? How do they acquire those skills in a really short amount of time? Because the
Yeah,
retirement tsunami is here. That wave is has approached landfall. And so the reality of it is that we need to get on our boards and ride as far as we can and get as much information before that wave dissolves and retreats back to sea.
totally. And I think a key to that, which we've implemented quite a few times here at EFG, is when people are on the brink of retirement, we take them in, we make them instructors for the next generation.
Right? Right? We're
We
gonna
say,
shout out
oh,
Sonia here. Love it.
right. Sonia and Walt, our favorite instructors.
Yeah,
Hopefully, we can
totally.
get them on the pod one day too.
100%.
But right as you think that it's over, we snatch you back in, and I think it's one. I hope they feel like they're getting paid handsomely and compensated well. But also, I think that there's real. You have the saying that being a weatherization contractor is being a humanitarian,
Yeah,
and I think of that also with our instructors. Like they are
yeah,
passing along their knowledge to the next generation for the good of green energy, for the good of energy efficiency, for the good of the weatherization industry.
yeah, 100%. It's like all that knowledge through the years of experience that some of these things can only be learned when something breaks on the job site, when that bad thing happens that you don't want to happen. I think about Sonia and sort of the experiences that she's had in the field. I can't wait for her to share them. Um, but really, it's we learn from those mistakes that we make, and we learn from just generally being there and existing in that world. And it's so incredibly important that these people are sharing that information and sharing that experience so that the next generation that's coming in doesn't quite have to face it as hard as we did or they did. We can share that information and experience to the next generation in a way that's going to make it more meaningful and they're going to connect. And it really is like, this energy efficiency sector, weatherization sector industry that we work in, it absolutely is this humanitarian mission. I constantly remind contractors of this. And if you're a contractor listening to this podcast, you've heard me say this. As industry professionals, we build calluses up on our hands from dragging insulation hoses or swinging hammers or, you name it. We get these calluses built up. And sometimes we just have to shave the calluses to remember why we do what we do. And that is something I will continually remind my colleagues with is to remember that simply put, you're a humanitarian and the work that you're doing is incredibly important. And you're changing lives of people that you live with, people that you work with, people that are in your communities. And that is something that we got to hold tight to. And especially when we get into trying times as a society and as a nation, we need to remember like we're there for each other. We're neighbors and we're helping each other. I constantly think about like John Tooley. I swear he preaches from the gospel of love and weatherization. Man, it's really a special thing to hear him talk about his approach to leadership and to weatherization and really its impact ultimately in the communities.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about like when you're saying it is really like a hands-on learning experience.
Yeah.
And I'm coming from outside the weatherization industry. My background's in environmental science and hydrology and engineering. I'm coming into this industry, and I don't think I've learned as much about this industry as during your panel NHPC last year. where you had all those. So Shane had this panel with Sonia. Who else was there? Can you name them? I can't
Yeah,
remember them off the top of
Jeff
my head.
from Wise Home Energy up in New York, Katie Gonzalez, who is with us here at Earth Forward Group now, and
Woohoo!
Cindy Cruz and Andrew Rodriguez, who works with a company called PST doing quality control inspections in New Jersey. So it's really this stellar lineup of a panel of industry leading experts and ultimately these voices from really all over the country, right? The really amazing thing about that particular panel is that it connects the audience. It connects with those auditors and crew leads and field techs that are sitting in there, the field managers, the administrative staff that's sitting in that session. They all can relate and they all feel like, wow, I'm not alone for once. Like, oh, wow, we deal with this crazy stuff too. And all of a sudden they feel connected. And I think we need more of that as a group for sure, which is why I really enjoy that particular session. And I'm looking forward to having that again in 2026. In Columbus for the National Home Performance Conference. We're
Yeah.
slated to deliver it again, hopefully. So
And for background, for context, that was a like Jeopardy style panel with super witty sayings, and you'd click on one and it would be a photo of a weatherization disaster, pretty much. And is that a fair
yeah,
rendition of it?
100%. It's caved in ceilings, raccoons living in attics that get discovered there, and just it's kind of the stuff that you scratch your head at and say, how did this really happen? But the conversation that follows that sort of photograph that just draws out the what in the world happened here? The conversation that follows that laugh and connection is everything because it's really people being vulnerable with each other, talking about how their experience is something they can share and learn from. And sure, we can all laugh at it together, but at the end of the day, that's kind of the big picture of what we're talking about with workforce development. And our efforts here at EFG, we're really trying to connect the next generation of workforce to these experiences so that they come better equipped, that they're not just carrying a tool belt to the job site, they're carrying sort of this mental Rolodex, if you will, of like, this thing happened and here's why it happened. Let's
Hmm.
not do that ourselves.
And hopefully they don't have to experience it
Yeah,
themselves
collapse ceilings
either.
are a lot of fun.
That honestly, that panel should be like your introduction training video. Welcome to weatherization. Here's what not to do. I learned so much through that panel. Everyone was giggling and laughing, and I was like, "That's an option. That can happen."
Mhm.
that was
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
that was my
weatherization,
hands-on learning.
I mean, it's super exciting. I think that's another reason why I love weatherization. It's, every job site is different. Every set of hurdles that you have to navigate is different. And it really is intriguing. It's like a mind game that you're playing to figure out how to help the person living in that house. It's how do we make them more efficient? How do we establish energy equity in someone's home? And how do we empower that person to gain control of their energy burdens?
Yeah.
And it's quite amazing. It really is quite amazing if you stop and think about what weatherization is and energy efficiency is.
So you went from field tech to energy auditor to maybe some QC stuff and some field management. And so you're in the field. Now, what do you do as the director of programs? And how did you translate all of that knowledge into what you do now?
Yeah, so I'm pretty lucky that I get to step into a stage that has already been being built um, here at Earth Forward Group. I work with an incredible team of about 20, 21 people at our organization that really have done so much legwork at establishing what workforce development should look like. And one of the things, being an outsider, I've obviously known about Earth Forward Group for many years now, and seeing the work that's been done by Diana McCarthy Berkery and her team here at this organization, it's been incredible. Being an industry professional, seeing that end-to-end thinking to where we need to reach the students early. We need to get to them before the other trades are, because we're competing with them. So to be able to sort of reach early into a high school student's career and to start guiding them to think about energy efficiency and green jobs and building science, it's really important whether they come to weatherization or not. I mean, they're going to work in construction. That's the given. So
Hmm.
we have new home builders out there that have no idea why we even need to do a blower test. I mean, weatherization professionals, building scientists, we've been doing them for 20, 25 years. New homes is just now catching up to that. So, nothing against the new home construction world, but the building science has really been pushing and leading the way in building more resilient housing stock and building healthier homes and eliminating indoor air quality issues and creating ultimately a healthier, more affordable home for anybody.
Yeah. I would love to know, what do you consider your greatest accomplishments or greatest milestones in your
Oh,
career?
what a question.
I know.
You know, I think of a couple things, and I guess it depends on the timeline of my career when you would ask me that question. So right now, I think it's just one of my greatest accomplishments, quite honestly, is just building a real understanding of what this industry is and understanding what the needs are. That's not an easy task to do. And I feel like so many organizations and individuals and weatherization and really energy efficiency, they sort of work in these siloed bins. And so there's not a lot of cross collaboration that happens from like the new home world or energy code world and retrofit world, even though they're all doing essentially the same thing, just through a different lens. So I think having built an understanding of that is an accomplishment in and of itself, because it's allowing me to start to bridge the gap. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do here at Earth Forward Group. I really believe that it's not just plugging weatherization employees through the next generation of learners that we're working with and getting certified and getting ready to go to the field. It's really all green jobs. And that's super important to understand, because as an industry, you're hearing more talk about energy efficiency over the last decade. It's been an exponential curve, an increase in the way that we talk about energy efficiency and what we're talking about when we mention energy efficiency. So we've really got to learn to connect it. And I feel like I've learned how to do that. And now I'm at the early stages of figuring out the mechanism to make it work. But early on in my career, I would say some milestones, like the biggest milestone is when I was an energy auditor working in York, Pennsylvania. I had a customer, a particular customer who was a single mother. It was, I want to say it was like a Thursday audit or a Friday audit. So for me, I'm looking forward to the weekend at this point. I ran the gauntlet of the week and did a lot of work in a short amount of time, and was really looking forward to that weekend. But then I walked in the front door and I saw that single mother sitting there waiting, hoping for change, hoping for help. So that motivated me to really do a good job and build a really good understanding of that house. I can still picture her actually when I close my eyes. Yeah, she had a newborn baby, and I remember sitting down at the table that was in like the kitchen dining room blended area, and the child, she was holding her child, and I was going over all of the things that combining these two different programs that I was working with that we could do to her home, and taking our gas bills from like $600 a month down to maybe
Oh my gosh.
70, 60, and electric bills from like $600 a month to 100 to $200 a month.
Wow.
It was life changing for her, and it really motivated me to lock in this industry, because that moment was when I realized that I am in fact a humanitarian. I am in fact
Mhm.
doing these things that are really good for people, and so I'm sharing my skill set with community members in this loving way that really promotes them to get control of situations that they otherwise couldn't get control of. And I think that's something that we really got to think about as an industry. We got to remember that. We got to remember those moments,
Yeah.
because not every moment is like that, and it's hard sometimes. It's really hard to remain focused on what we're doing, because it's a demanding industry. It really is.
And I think as a manager, that's one of your superpowers as well, is is getting everybody together and reminding us why we're doing what we do
Yeah,
and why we're in weatherization, why we're in sustainability, why we're in energy efficiency, because we all came with a passion for it.
yeah.
obviously we all have like a personal stake or a
Totally.
story or something about it that makes us be here.
Yeah.
And you're really good at recentering us when things get tough.
Thank
So,
you.
no, thank you. Because sometimes at the end of the week, I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You
think
know,
we all hit that point.
look, I mean, it's funny. Like I have this other saying in weatherization that's very much centered on the idea of, I'm really convinced that there's no busier professional than a weatherization or energy efficiency professional. I think of a good friend of mine over in New Jersey who runs the utility program, and his saying is just pile it on. That's really the approach that these folks take. It's
Yeah.
they believe in what they're doing and they want it. They don't want
Yes.
to put it off. They want to take it on and they want to keep moving and progressing forward because they know what they're doing makes a difference. And that's everything. It's also super hard to find that in any other industry. So, there's that going for us with what we got going on.
I think any other industry wants less work than than a
Yeah.
weatherization contractor.
I mean, one would safely assume that other industries want to figure out how to streamline and do less for more. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's this is one where we're figuring out how to do more with less 99% of the time. And I'm just amazed at the innovation and the creativity that we see every day from contractors and program managers and all of these different entities that are combining to really do good at the end of the day. Quite amazing.
I love how many sayings you have. I was gonna say you're our weatherization Confucius, but I think weatherization Yoda makes a little bit more sense for you.
I mean, I'm all about the reference.
So, for those that are interested in transitioning to weatherization or green jobs or energy efficiency, anything in our world, what advice would you give them? Maybe we've interested them in this with this podcast and they want to switch and we've done it.
I
We've
hope.
inspired them. What are you going to give them? What should
Yeah.
they do?
First, it's all about attitude. And it's really like anything else that you do in life, right? It's all about the way that you approach it and your attitude that you have internally. Are you going to be complacent or are you going to be embracing? I think my time in the Marine Corps actually comes to mind with this. In the Marine Corps we had this saying and it was embrace the suck, right? Like
More
it
saying,
really it wasn't right, exactly. Like it wasn't, sometimes your environment is not the most pleasant or friendly environment. And you've just got to learn to embrace it. And you've got to understand to appreciate where you are in that moment in time and understand that it's temporary. It's not forever. And so I would say, like, why am I bringing that up? Well, it really has to do with the mentality that you face because I'm going to tell you if you get into weatherization and green jobs, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You're going to deal with some really frustrating customers. You're going to deal with some really frustrating housing stocks. You're going to run into all kinds of problems in neglected houses. We're fixing problems that have been neglected for 20 to 80 years at times. Sometimes when you crack that shell open, you find that there's like 4 more shells underneath it that need cracked too. So embrace that. That's the advice that I would give you is to embrace it. Take it in and understand that that experience is only going to make you stronger and it's going to make you have a bigger knowledge base. And the next time that something similar happens that, you're going to be able to actually address it because you're going to be able to go to it in your mind real quick and say, I remember this thing and this thing led me to this. So number one, embrace it. And number two, just be a sponge. That's the best advice that I can give anybody is really, man, it's like you gotta just work hard with the folks that are retiring and that have been there, done that, to just extract as much information out of them as you can. Take notes. I mean, we have technology at our fingertips all the time. Film them doing something on your phone. Be like, oh, okay,
with
well, they're
consent.
right. Yeah, obviously with consent, right? I mean, like get that consent first, but like think about how you can adapt technology into your work life and use it to your benefit, use it to train each other, use it to build each other up. And I think that's one of the really cool things about the next generation of workers that are going to be coming into the weatherization green jobs field is ultimately how they embrace technology as a generation. And I'm not a fan of generational classification by any means. I'm not a supporter of it. But one of the things I think that's really cool that I've personally seen with the classes that we've taught and the students that we're engaging with is their desire to integrate technology into what they do. And I really do believe they're going to take weatherization, energy efficiency, and probably far beyond that to places we've never even dreamed of. And I'm really excited to see that happen.
That's so cool because I feel like, again, I also am not a huge fan of super strict generational labels, but I
Right.
feel like the older generations don't have anything nice to say about this next generation of workers. So it's really refreshing to hear you talk about them like that.
Yeah, I think that can be kind of a societal issue at times. And I think it's one that goes way back. Even Socrates can be quoted at saying, there's issues with the youth, there's issues with, the young generation doesn't rise when elders walk into the room. I mean, Socrates literally said that. So I think at some point we've got to understand that there's a human condition that's like, causing us to feel a certain way about younger generations. And so we've got to really ask ourselves, is it really the younger generation that's the issue, or is it me? Is it the way that I'm thinking about the younger generation? So I think that's something that, I would just challenge listeners to really think about and contemplate. Like, if you're a trades professional out there and you're going, I can't get a kid to work today, they don't want to work, whatever, I challenge you on two things. Number one, it might be the approach that you're taking could be an issue. Number
Totally.
two, totally could just be they just need guidance, and they're not learning the same way that you did 40 years ago or 30 years ago by a swift kick to the backside into the deep end of the swimming pool saying sink or swim. That's just not the approach they like. And we have to adapt. As industry professionals, we have to adapt the way that we teach. It's huge.
Are you calling our listeners old?
No, not at all.
I'm kidding. No, you're right. You're right. This next generation, I mean, every generation's different
Yeah.
and every generation has different needs. And I think that's one of our, especially mine, because I deal with a lot of our student surveys and our data collection and analysis. One of my biggest challenges right now is trying to understand how the next generation of workers think and feel about things and what they want out of a job and what they want out of this industry.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
love
we're
that you're
still,
doing that. I love it. It's
yeah,
so,
we're just problem solvers here. We're
yeah.
we're
And
puzzle lovers, you know?
hearing the data that's coming out from what you're finding is huge. And I'm really excited. I mean, we could do an entire episode on that alone. But hearing the information that you're finding and revealing through these student surveys. And what's really interesting is it's not just like this group of 5 off in the corner. It's like 1,700 students that are all saying very similar things.
Right.
So, you know, it's like maybe we should just take a moment and listen because all of a sudden we might learn something.
You'll have
So
to interview me on one of these one day.
totally. So,
Yeah, it is really interesting. I mean, one of the biggest changes I've seen with this next generation is they don't have their license and
mm,
they don't want to get their license.
yeah.
So how can we support them with transportation and getting to job sites? Like what's our problem solving method? What are we going to do?
Right. That is a big thing that we've got to work through as an industry, and we've got to really challenge the way that we're thinking. I think transportation in general for weatherization professionals is an issue, and especially because the work that we do requires a lot of tools, a lot of materials. So quite oftentimes, contractors are using box vans. Like you go there in your mind with me, it's essentially like a U-Haul box van. That's what they're using to get to the job site. And insurance companies are not huge fans of that. So they
Yeah.
run rate through the roof for an 18-year-old to be driving a box van.
So wouldn't have been good at that, to be honest.
Totally,
To
right?
be
So
fair.
we kinda like I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm a little bit different because I drove big trucks in the Marine Corps at 18 years old. But
For the
yeah,
rest of us.
for the non-military world, yeah, I think we gotta figure something out. And we gotta figure out something rather quick because we need more workers. And we need more weatherization professionals. We need that next generation of energy auditors. We need the next generation of field techs and crew leads. So how can we help? I mean, that's the question we've really got to be trying to answer, is
Hmm.
shifting from like, oh, well, this is a problem. We need to shift to, how can we help fix this problem? I mean, come on, the building scientists that are on this podcast listening in right now, you all are literally some of the most brilliant minded people I've ever met. I mean, there's not a problem you can't solve. I've seen it. We can solve this together. I know we can. Let's just not complain about it. Let's figure it out.
I think what the students are asking for through my data is they want either transportation support or they want, like driver's ed, they want support getting their license because they're not, I don't know if they can't do it on their own or if something's standing in the way, but really removing that barrier, I think it's going to be key. And
Yeah.
the others, I don't have total great answers for yet, but we'll need to put our heads together.
I mean, you can't turn to your crystal ball and bring solutions forward for every issue right now, but eventually we will, because we're gonna fill the solutions that are going into that thing, because we're gonna better understand what the that's pretty key to fixing this.
My last question for you. What do you think can be done to ensure that everyone has equitable access to these green job opportunities and these well-paying careers?
Wow, that is the
Big
million dollar
last question.
question. That
Yeah.
is, yeah, that's the $1 million question right there, Ruby. Access is an issue for sure, and I think it's a multifaceted solution that's going to fix that particular problem. Instantly, where my mind is going is really around marketing efforts. As
Totally.
an industry, we have to figure out how we can market these programs better. What I gotta say is, okay, so look, you get your electric bill or your gas bill in the mail, right? And so the snail mail still exists, and inside of that are pamphlets that get folded up and stuffed in the center of the electric bill or gas bill. I don't know anybody that's ever got their utility bill in the mail and went, yes, all right, I can't wait to open this up.
More
And really,
paper.
like, get to the middle of it and be like, oh, there's this free thing in a world filled with scams and everything else right now. Like, I guess we could understand why they're a little skeptical to enroll in these programs. Maybe there's a better approach. And I think, in fairness to the utilities and to the weatherization world, I think it's starting to change. We're starting to see companies, even weatherization contractors. Shout out to Green Life in New Jersey. If you're not following them on social media, check them out. They're jumping on the latest, greatest TikTok trends
Oh, you
right
showed
now,
me their page the other day. They're
right?
funny.
Yeah,
They're good.
they're doing great work, and so what they're doing in that work is they're normalizing energy efficiency. They're normalizing weatherization. They're breaking down this plethora world of acronyms that we have, and they're teaching people what it is. And so I think that's step one, is we need to demystify what energy efficiency even is and what these programs are that are out there. And we really need to focus as an industry on synchronizing efforts. We can't just keep coming at this problem with one-off spot source solutions. We
Hmm.
really, really need to come together as an industry and combine resources and work together, and ultimately make it a little bit easier on the contractor too in that process. I mean, they're juggling jobs every day, and they're juggling multiple programs to stay afloat and to keep their work moving. And why are we making it so hard on them? Like, let's just come together and figure out a way that we could just get a little universal with it to check all the boxes for all the programs and help out. I think that's going to be something that really helps too.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
say another one of your superpowers is we very professionally like to say stakeholder facilitation. You like to say happy hour.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Really. I mean, look, what's got to happen as we navigate the necessary changes that we need in our industry, man, it's really got to be this multifaceted approach. We've got to have all the key stakeholders at the table, and we've been leaving one out for a while, and it's the person that does this work. It's the
Mhm.
weatherization contractor. And we've got to pull the chair up to the table. We've got to embrace it, because if we don't, we can have the best intentions in the world, but if we don't count the person that needs to do this work into that conversation to actually provide valuable feedback in designing that program and implementing that program, man, we're shooting ourselves in the foot before we ever run the race. You know, we've leaning in so hard on these contractors, and the bulk of them are very small. The bulk of them are, are
Right.
maybe 2 to 3 crews at most. So you're talking like 15 people organizations or less, and then you've got some bigger contractors out there that are in the game that they are doing bulk work, and they're doing a ton of it in a short amount of time. You know, we need all of those contractors. We need the big and the small contractors to get to that table to provide the feedback that's been missing, because they've got some pretty important things to say, and they're out in the field. They know what's going on. They see it. And really they just need a platform to talk about what they're seeing and talk about how they can adapt it. And obviously you need the right contractor at the table. You don't want the contractor that's going to be complacent coming in going, that's never going to work. This is all craziness.
I've
I
heard
don't
that.
really change.
Yeah.
Like, they do exist in this world. I hope if you're listening, you're not that. And if you are, I also would really challenge you to change your approach, rethink your approach to weatherization. Is that really who you want to be known as? Is that what you want to be? And I think deep down inside there somewhere, that answer is no. So, otherwise you'd be in new home construction. You won't be in weatherization. So let's talk this through. Like, let's figure this out together. And I think ultimately my ultimate recommendation, boy, it's just, as an industry, we really need to think about how we're doing the work that we're doing. And we really need to have a conversation with the contractor to figure out how we can get this improved and how we can make it better for them, how we can promote them to grow, how we can promote them to sustain employees and to create equitable wages inside. We talk about in energy efficiency and weatherization, we continually hear terms like energy equity, energy justice,
Mhm.
financial equity. These are all things that we're hearing from inside projecting outward. I think at some point we need to stop just projecting outward. I mean, keep projecting it outward, but like, we need to project it inward as well. We need to really think as an industry together. It's like, okay, we've been putting this problem off for 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time we stop for a second and start talking with each other and coming together, because we're all doing the same thing. You know, that's something I think that's going to be a huge next step, is breaking down the barriers, breaking down the rivalries. Like, newsflash, auditors and crew leaders that are listening in, there is no rivalry. It's not real. You're one team together. Okay. So, like, crew leaders, embrace your auditors. Auditors, embrace your crew leaders. You both have different jobs, but like, it's super important. Break it down. Break down the barrier. Work together. That's what's going to fix everything. It'll change how your day-to-day operations work.
Bring everyone to the table is kind of
That's
the
it.
can that be the Shane saying out of this one?
Here we go. There's another one.
We'll
Bring
pick
them
another
all to
one.
the table.
Bring everyone to the table. And might I add also, when we're talking about who's missing, I think the next generation, the students, the
100%.
young workers, the early career workers are also missing from these conversations. So I think that's been a big push for EFGs to bring them to the table and to get their
Yeah.
voices heard.
100%. It's been amazing to watch the next generation of leaders start to emerge, even just in that classroom environment. I think about a summer program that we did, in the New England region, and I think about some of the conversations that I had with some of those students. I see young women in that room that are embracing the female leaders that are in front of them.
Hmm.
Seeing people like Sonia, people like Michelle, people like Diana, and quite honestly, like, our organization is predominantly ran by women. And I am proud of being a minority at Earth Forward Group. I'm proud of that. It's amazing to be a part of it. Man, every group of people that are struggling right now, for them to see it and to see that, like, they can do it, there's so much power to that. And it's
Mm.
incredible to be a part of it and to see them realizing that it's actually achievable and realizing that it's reachable. Man, it's like I look forward to coming to work just because of that every day. It's an amazing opportunity. And it's really a privilege to do this for our industry and to shift gears. Man, I do miss lugging my blower door around. I never thought I'd say that, but like, I do. I really miss my blower door and, inspections and audits and working with field staff hand in hand. Um, I miss that, but I still am doing it just from a different lens now. And, it's nice because I know my contractors that are listening to this this podcast, they know that I got them through this. They know that like they've got a voice at the table and they know that I know what they need and I got them through this. And I'm really excited about being with an organization that also understands what contractors needs are and they also understand how to prioritize those contractors. So it's been just a really spectacular experience and I'm really excited to see where the next couple of years go for us as an industry because I think we're going to make some pretty big waves real quick.
Contractors, you always have a seat with us. Students, you always have a seat with us. Early career professionals, you always have a seat with us. That's really what we're saying.
And those that are retiring, you also have a seat with us as well. Let's get some of that knowledge in your mind
Absolutely.
out there to the next generation of workers. We need it.
I love when you're saying extract it. And I was like, this is extracting their brain.
Yes, I mean we really need to. We've got to get the thought processes and the lines of thinking. I mean, it's incredible. I've worked with all of these weatherization professionals. I've seen them do some really incredible things and come up with some solutions. I think about one particular contractor in Western Pennsylvania. I'm going to keep them nameless on this, but you know, man, they were starting this when no one else was talking about energy efficiency. And the things that they would do to learn, it was just incredible. I could listen to their stories all day long and just it's fascinating to me hearing their approach and their solution to some of the challenges at that point. Man, we've come a long way in a really short time. So it's been really rewarding. And that,
Yeah, it's exciting to see. I mean, especially with all this new technology, you're right. What is weatherization tomorrow?
yeah, it's wild.
And we will find that out, I guess.
100%, we're gonna find it out. I mean, that's the cool thing is this industry embraces technology. There's a couple of folks that are out there listening. They're probably saying, Shane, I don't think so. I don't like that technology. But the DG 1000, man, it does it for us. It's a long way from the DG 700 manometer. And man, they're starting to embrace it, and I love it. For those that know what I'm talking about in that, man, welcome to the dark side of technology, I guess, at this point. Glad to
I was
see you're
gonna
here.
say you're speaking like Elvish to me. I have no
Right on.
clue what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking.
It's just the manometer we use for blower door testing. There's kind of a
Okay.
great debate around new versus old and embracing technology, and I think it's funny. One guy in particular that I'm thinking about that should hear this. Uh,
You
I
can
hope you
send it to him
upgraded.
later.
Yeah, I hope you upgraded from that 700 to the 1200.
Well, thank you so much, Shane, for your time and all your insights today and your stories and your many sayings. I loved learning more about your story, even though we talk like every day. Feel like I learned so much more about you and your path
Yeah,
and picking your brain a little bit. So thank you. And if you can't get enough of Earth Forward Group, please visit our website at earthforwardgroup.com. You could check out our blogs under EFG Insights for more information on the state of the industry and new technology and stuff that's coming out. We also talk about workforce development and what we're doing about it. And you can also connect with us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram at EarthFordGRP. That's EarthFordGRP on Instagram. And thank you so much for listening to the first podcast of Green Jobs, Good Jobs. Hopefully, tune back in soon for lots more interviews with industry experts and leaders in sustainability, energy efficiency, clean energy, and weatherization. Thank
yeah.
you so much, everybody.
Thanks.